Hi everyone and welcome back to Googie's Kitchen. My name's Alexis and today I want to show you how to make my Grandad's delicious ginger Parkin from my cookbook, Gifts from Grandpa. Today I want to show you how to make my Grandad's ginger Parkin recipe, but before I do, if you are new to my channel then hello and welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and if you like cooking videos and you want to see more like this one, I post 2 videos a week on a Tuesday and a Thursday at 7 AM, so please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. As I just mentioned, today I want to show you how to make my Grandad's delicious ginger Parkin recipe, and this recipe is in my new cookbook, Gifts from Grandpa, which is available to buy on Amazon, and I will link it in the description box below for you. This book has been written in loving memory of my dad, because I think that my dad was an amazing cook. So I wanted to share his recipes with you. So in this book are lots of my dad's recipes, a few of mine, a couple of my nan's, and one of my grandfather's, which I'm sharing with you today. And my dad also believes that everybody should have a home and everybody should have a place to go to. So £1 from the sale of each book will go to the homeless charity Crisis. Now, onto my Grandad's ginger Parkin recipe, and this is the only recipe in the book that was my Grandad's. I never actually met my grandfather, and he never made me this recipe either, obviously because I never met him, but my dad used to make it. I remember coming home from a Saturday job I had in the Co-op, the local supermarket, and my dad had made ginger Parkin, and he'd never made it before, and I asked him why he'd made it, and he said he just fancied a sweet treat. But his father always used to make this. It's a northern treat, and my grandfather was from up north, Yorkshire I think he was from, and he always used to make it. They normally have it around this time of year, so about October, November, people will start to make this treat. It's delicious. My husband absolutely loves it. Anything ginger and he's in there. So this is a great one for Howard. And Ted really likes it as well. It's just a really delicious sweet treat that you can give as a snack, or it could be part of a main meal. You could have it for dessert. You could try and heat it up with ice cream. The best thing about this dessert though is the fact that it stays in the tin for a really long time. So it's not like an ordinary cake where you'd have to eat it in a few days. And actually the longer you leave it, the better it tastes. When my dad first made this recipe, I was like, and then he said, if you leave that 3 days, it'll get better. And I did once leave it 3 days, and it did actually get better. So yeah, it's a great one for keeping in the cupboard if you need a quick snack, but not immediately. So I thought I'd show you this recipe today. So here is how to make my Grandad's ginger Parkin recipe. So for this recipe you are going to need scarily quite a lot of sugar. Now I know I have tried to swap out some of the sugars that were in the original recipe and make them a bit healthier, but just to warn you, there is a lot of sugar in this. So firstly you're going to need 100 grams of molasses. You can buy molasses in health food stores like Holland and Barrett, but you can also get molasses in the supermarket as well. You will need to add a bit of water to it and heat it up in a pan if you want to use the stuff and the sugar in the packet, because it's actually granulated sugar in the packet. So, and then you'll also need 100 grams of honey as well, and you'll also need 100 grams of coconut oil, or you could use unsalted butter as well if you want to. And then I have 150 grams of coconut sugar. I know there's a lot of sugar in this. Now onto the dry ingredients, and you will need 200 grams of oats. These are gluten-free oats, although this recipe isn't actually totally gluten-free, unfortunately. I can't eat it, but my husband and son can, so they'll be the ones eating it. And then I have 200 grams of spelt flour. Now spelt flour is a lower gluten flour, and I used to be able to tolerate this, but I don't think I can anymore, which is why I won't be eating this recipe. And then I have 3 teaspoons of ground ginger, obviously ginger Parkin, and then I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder as well, and then I have 1 large egg. So 1 large egg or 2 medium eggs. So the first thing I've done is to preheat my oven to 180 degrees, and now what I'm going to do is grease a square tin. If you haven't got a square tin, don't worry about it. You can use a round tin. You just need a tin to hold the cake in. And I'm going to spread some oil across the base of the pan to grease it so I can get my cake out easily when it's done, when it's finally cooked in the oven. So yes, I'm just greasing the bottom of this pan now. So I've set my baking tin aside, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the dry ingredients into a large mixing bowl. So I've got my oats, which I'm going to pour in, and then I've got my spelt flour as well, and then I have my coconut sugar, or you can use brown sugar as well. I forgot to say that. You could use brown sugar if you wanted to. And then I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and I also have the 3 teaspoons of ground ginger as well. And I'm now going to mix all of these ingredients together until they're well mixed in. And then I'm going to set this aside as well, and I'll show you what to do with the wet ingredients now. So for the wet ingredients, I'm going to put a small saucepan onto a medium to high heat, and then I'm going to add about 200 grams of coconut oil to that pan, and I'm going to let that melt down. And I'm also going to add the 100 grams of molasses as well. If I can get it out of this bowl, it's very sticky molasses. It kind of reminds me of tar, I have to say. It is delicious once it's in the ginger Parkin, but getting it off things is a nightmare. And then I'm also going to add the 100 grams of honey as well to this. And then I'm going to mix all of these sugars together and the coconut oil, and I'm going to let them melt down in this pan now. So that's everything melted down nicely now, and they've all mixed together well as well. You don't want it to boil or cook, you just want them to mix together, that's all. So we've done that now, and we're going to go and add this to our dry ingredients. So now what I'm going to do is add my wet ingredients to my dry ingredients, and then I'm going to mix these together. So make sure I've got it all in there, and then I'm just going to mix everything together in this bowl. And then I've broken my egg and I've put it into a cup. Oops, and I'll put that, I'll scramble that now, and I'll add this in as well. And that should all be lovely. So I'm just going to mix these ingredients together until everything is well mixed in now. So all of my ingredients are well mixed together now. The mixture is quite thick, but that is quite normal, so don't worry if you find your mixture is thick too. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread the mixture, if I can, evenly across the base of this tin. Smells very gingery and very sugary, I have to say that, but I'm sure it's going to be delicious for Ted and Howard anyway. So that's the mixture spread evenly across the base of the tin, and I'm now going to put this into my oven for about an hour and 20. After an hour, I'm going to check it, and then if it needs more time, I'll cook it for a bit more. So the ginger Parkin has been in the oven for a good hour now, and I can honestly say it is cooked. The way you check it's cooked is if you put your finger on it and it springs back up, which it is doing. I'm just gently pressing and it's springing back up. So that means it's cooked, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to leave it to cool now. So I've left the cake to cool completely, and now what I'm going to do is cut it up. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know how I like to cut my square tin baking. So I cut down the middle, and then I cut lengthways down the middle again. And then, oh God, this is solid, but that's good. And then I cut lengthways again down one side, and lengthways again down the other side. And then just going to cut along here like so, and along here like so as well. And then all that's left for me to do is to put these into the tin and hide them from my husband and son for a few days anyway. Probably about 3. Some people do leave it for about 3 weeks, I've read online, but I always find it's much nicer after about 3 days. And it is fine to leave it. It's got so much sugar in it that it does preserve it, so that's why. And I'm using just an old Quality Street tin here as well. I'll put my teeth in at some point today. I'm using an old Quality Street tin here. This isn't an advert for Quality Street before anybody starts jumping up and down. But yes, you just need a tin, an airtight container to hold it in, and a tin is normally the best thing. So yes, that's what I'd suggest anyway. And I'm just going to put these in. And that is my ginger parkin done. So that's how you make my Grandad's delicious ginger parkin, and as I mentioned earlier, that recipe is in my new cookbook, Gifts from Grandpa, which is available to buy on Amazon, and I will link it in the description box below for you, and I'll also link the recipe in the description box below too. As I said earlier, I'm now off to hide these from my husband and son somewhere for a few days, just to make them go a bit more biscuit-like before I serve them to them. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to give me a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and please feel free to leave any comments below. Have you ever made ginger parkin before, and do you love it as much as my husband and son do? I'd love to know, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. See you all soon. Bye.